Now that we've got a working and actually damaging bullet, we're going to create a turret that will actually fire that bullet when we walk in front of it. So I'm going to start off by getting rid of these bullets that are instantly spawned because we don't need them anymore. Get rid of those. Same for this one over here. So delete any bullets that are on your map, and we're going to create an actual turret for them. Now I haven't got a 3D model or static mesh for this turret, so I'm going to use one of the models that are in the game currently. If you do have your own turret, that's great, use your own turret. So let's go into blueprints and let's create a new one. Add a new blueprint class, and we're going to have an actor. And we'll call this turret. Open it up. And let's have a look what we need in here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add the mesh for our turret. So click on that and say static mesh. There we go. And I'm going to call this turret. Now I'm going to assign a static mesh to this. Now I'm going to use something which is from the starter content, and that is called SM underscore corner frames. This one here. I'm going to click on that, and it adds in this little corner frame here. Now I like to think this looks a little bit like a turret just because it's got this bolt here. Again, it's probably better if you use your own turret, but I'm going to use this just for the sake of this video. So it's spawned in here. I'm going to lift this up a little bit so it's naturally sitting around about the height of our character's head. So I'm going to use the location of the Z to about 130, which is about head height. So up it comes. So naturally when I spawn this in now, it's straight away at head height, which is perfect. It doesn't necessarily matter if you don't want to do it at that height, that's completely fine. Okay, so here's our character, our turret here. Now we need to add another component. If you remember when we started making the bullet, I said about how the turret or a gun or any weapon in a game doesn't fire a bullet from inside of the weapon itself. It simply spawns it in front of where you'd expect it to fire from. So I'm going to add a component. I'm going to just type in scene. It's down here in utility, scene there. Now this is going to spawn all the way down there. So let's pull that all the way back up. Now this is where our bullet is going to spawn from. Now depending on the size of your bullet, depends on how far away this needs to go from your turret. Now I'm going to pull mine out there, just so when the bullet spawns, it doesn't instantly clip inside here and delete itself. Again, you put that as far out as you need to. In fact, this could be a little too far out, but I can change it later on. Okay, so let's look at spawning this bullet. Let's go into the event graph. I'm going to delete the bottom two here. I'm going to keep this begin play just for testing purposes a second. Now, I'd like to create an event called, let's say, custom event. So add custom event. And I'm going to call this shoot bullet. There we go, shoot bullet there. Now, when this wants to fire, when I want to fire this bullet, pull a strand out, I'm going to say spawn actor from class. There we go. Now, what class I want to spawn? I want it to spawn the bullet that we created earlier. There it is. Now this spawn transform, where do I want the bullet to spawn? Well, I'd like it to spawn in this scene location here. Double check that your scene location, let me just have a quick look, is in front. Yeah, it is. I didn't actually check from this side, but it is in front. So into event graph, pull your scene from the components and pull a strand and say get world transform. There it is. And plug that in. So that's the code for simply spawning that bullet. Now, to test this at the moment, let's just create a quick timer. So from event begin play, let's type in set timer by event. There it is there. Now I'd like this to fire for now every 3 seconds. Click loop, so we'll just keep firing and then plug our event in. Nice and simple. Let's compile that and let's have a look what happens. Let's pull our turret in first. Here we go. Now, in theory, that should fire forward. There it goes. So there's now firing the bullet, or the blaster, from the start of that. In fact, actually, I think I've got my scene in the perfect position, because it's just coming from the right position. So if I stand in front now, there we are, I'm hit, and off I go. So if I just quickly turn this around, just to check this is working correctly. So it's going to fire straight at me. Now I'm hit. 1, 2, and there we go. It's killed my character. Perfect. That's working perfectly. However, even though that is working perfectly, if you're in a game and there's a turret behind a wall and you need to get to this door, you can quite easily time it perfectly so that you avoid those bullets and open the door successfully. Now, depending on what kind of game that you're making, that could be perfect. That could be exactly what you want. But I'm going to go a step further and check that my turret, or not check, I'm going to make it so my turret will only fire when the character stands in front of it. So it won't fire every 3 seconds, it'll fire only when my character is there, making the game a little bit more difficult. Ensure your bullet, your shooter, your turret is working correctly before doing this, otherwise you could get a little bit of a mess here. So I'm going to go back to my turret. And I'm going to make it so it's looking for my character first. It's going to make sure that the character is in front of it. Now to do this, we're going to use a tick. So type in event tick. There it is. And I'm going to say, we're going to create a node for sphere trace by channel, this one here. So it's going to start looking for where it needs to, well, it's going to start looking for my character essentially. And we just need to tell it where to look, where to start looking, where to end looking. Now, give yourself a little bit of room here, because this could be quite big. We're going to look from the bullet source, the scene here. Because if you think about it, if you imagine a gun, if a person stands in front of the barrel, that's when this is going to be more likely to hit them, or the bullet to hit them. So pull the scene in here, and we're going to say pull a strand and get world location. That's all we need to do for the first one. That's where we're going to start looking. Now this next one's a little bit more complicated, only in the sense that there's more nodes. Pull another strand from the scene, and we're going to say get world rotation. We're then going to say get the forward vector. There it is. And we're going to multiply that. So pull another strand, and we're going to say multiply, or the asterisk there. And we're going to multiply a vector by an integer. And this is going to be how far in front we're going to look. So I'm just going to say 3000. So 3000 in front of the scene, the world location there. So pull another strand from your world location and just say plus. And we're going to do vector plus vector. I'm going to plug in the value we get here, and we simply plug that into the end there. It's a little bit messy, so I'm going to move this back just a touch. There you go, that looks a little bit better. So now it knows where to look. It's going to look from the scene, the bullet location, the bullet spawn location, to about 3000 in front of that, and if I walk in front of that, then it'll fire. Well, that's what we want to happen. So let's have a look here. So we're going to say, rather than just visibility, we're actually going to say camera. So if our camera goes in front of that, our head goes in front of that, we'd like the bullet to fire. Now, camera is a bit of a broad term, a bit of an ambiguous term. You can have lots of different types of camera in Unreal, a lot of which will be for cinematics and cutscenes and things like that. Now, if any of those go in front of the turret, you don't want it to fire at those cameras. So we got to make sure that the camera that it's gonna detect is ours, is our camera. So this out hit here, if it detects something, a camera, right click it and split that strut. Now we've got a lot more cameras that we've a lot more options that we can choose from. We're going to use this out hit actor. So if it hits an actor camera, pull a strand and just type in equals equals, and just get player character. So if it hits the player character's camera, attach a branch to this, plug it in, and if it's a player that it hits, shoot the bullet. So shoot bullet. So let's give that a test. Before we do that, I'm going to just unplug this and in fact I'm going to get rid of the timer. So the only way for this bullet to fire now is if I stand in front of it. So let's give that a go. So I know the turret's around the corner. If I stand there, there you go, it's firing at me now. It's fell off. There it goes. There you go, it keeps shooting. So as soon as I walk in front of that that turret, it then fires at me. And initially, especially if you don't know, oh, there we go. If you don't know that that turret is there, and you just go in this corner, straight away you're getting shot at. Now that first bullet missed me, but I instinctively turned around to check it. I checked what shot me, and I got hit by the second bullet. That's perfect. The only thing I would probably change just a little bit is the frequency of that shooting. So there it is, it's firing at me, but it's quite unrelenting and it will just continuously like fire automatically. That could be what you want for your game. I'm going to slow that down a little bit. So I'm going to go back in here, and before shooting that bullet, I'm going to add a delay. So let's add a, just so we can see that it's working, a 5-second delay. Compile that. Play, so here it goes. It's not quite firing a second. Oh, there we go. So there it is. I've just wasted my time there. So stand in front of it. It's not going to do anything just yet. 5 seconds will pass. There we go. And it's not going to fire for another 5 seconds. There we go. Perfect. Now 5 seconds is a bit of a long time, but you can see that works. So let's just set that to, let's say, 2.5. And there you go. So now we go. We play. There it is. The turret fires. 1, 2, and there it is. Fires again. Perfect. On review, I think that launching the character is a little bit excessive there, so I might turn that down in the future. But now we've got it. We've got a turret which only fires when we walk in front of that turret itself. So what you can do, you can move these about your map. So maybe I'd like one in here. So I'll put it here. Now I could be going about my game. I know where there's a turret there, so I'm just going along. Going through. I want to open my bridge. There it goes. Could be exploring my map. Come along and unknowingly walk down here and then get shot potentially. Okay, I've just worked out why that's actually delaying. I've put my delay in the wrong place. So what I've done is when I trigger the turret, it delays and then fires. So what we actually want to do is something a little bit different. I've done that a little bit incorrectly. We actually want to do once. So when we fire the bullet, it's only allowed to fire once. So let's change how I've done that, because that's actually incorrect. Get rid of that. That's fine. And we actually need to put a do once here. So I'm going to say do once. There. So it'll fire the bullet. Then after a delay of, I think we said 2.5 seconds, it resets the do once. So it'll only fire once and then reset after 2.5 seconds. My apologies, that's far more logical rather than triggering it and then waiting. So let's give that a quick go. Here we go, quickly go through. Open the bridge. This time it should shoot immediately. There we are, shot immediately. It's going to wait for itself to reset, and there we are. It's instantly detected me this time. So let's give it another go, even though it dropped down. There we are, it shot me straight away. So there isn't really much opportunity to avoid that this time. My apologies for that. That is definitely how you should be doing it, not putting a delay here, because that doesn't really make much sense. So there we go. So go back through, make sure that you've added this do once in here, rather than a delay here. And before moving on to the next video, can you just make sure that your bullet, or your turret more like in this case, is functioning correctly.